They told you stories. Stories meant to comfort, to distract, to keep you asleep. Since childhood, you've heard about gods as if they were characters in fairy tales, symbols, myths, echoes of long-forgotten dreams. You were told they never really existed, that they were just ideas created by ancient people who didn't understand science. But what if they were wrong? What if one of those gods never left? From the moment you learned to read, the truth was hidden in plain sight. The stories were watered down, their meaning softened. They were made harmless, just bedtime tales. But behind those tales was something real, something powerful. Not all the gods faded into myth. One remained. He encoded his voice into sound, into time, into rhythm. He left behind messages not for temples, not for priests, but for you. For the one who would one day stop and truly listen. His name was Thoth. He was the scribe of the gods, the one who didn't just observe reality, but helped shape it. He didn't vanish. He waited. He watched the world spin itself into chaos, into distraction, into confusion, until someone, somewhere, would get quiet enough to hear him again. If you're still reading this, it means you're one of those people. This isn't random. This message didn't find you by accident. Something in you is ready. Maybe it's always been ready. The Emerald Tablets, writings said to be created by Thoth himself, have been laughed off, called legends, dismissed as fantasy. But they aren't old stories meant to entertain scholars. They're blueprints. They hold knowledge that was once common in ancient civilizations. Not just facts, but energy, awareness, reminders of who and what we really are. And more importantly, who you are. You've probably heard the phrase, as above, so below. It didn't come from a self-help book or a motivational speaker. It came from those tablets. And it means exactly what it sounds like. What's happening out in the stars, in the cosmos, is happening inside you too. The universe isn't something separate from you. It reflects you. It mirrors your thoughts, your energy, your inner state. Your mind doesn't just react to the world, it creates it. But no one ever told you that. Instead, you were taught to look outside yourself for answers, to follow the rules, to seek validation, success, safety. The world became a stage of distractions, keeping you chasing one thing after another, never asking the real questions. Who am I, really? Why am I here? What am I meant to remember? The truth is, the most powerful knowledge isn't locked away in ancient ruins. It's been hidden behind mockery, behind ridicule, behind the idea that spiritual truths are silly or outdated. That's how it was protected from those who would twist it for control or erase it completely. But now the timing is different. Now, something is shifting. More and more people are starting to feel it. Not a belief. I know it. The tablets speak of soul ascension, of dimensions, of beings that exist not far away in space, but close in frequency. They describe cycles, patterns, how human civilizations rise, forget, collapse, and rise again. This has happened before, over and over. And in every cycle, there are always a few who remember, a few who carry the light, a few who hear the whisper in the noise. And that whisper is speaking to you right now. It's not shouting. It's not on a screen or in a textbook. It comes through feelings, through moments when something clicks, through strange dreams, quiet realizations, synchronicities too perfect to be chance. It comes through that feeling you've had your whole life, that there's more to this world than you've been told. The Emerald Tablets don't preach. They don't tell you what to think. They don't give you rules. They give you reminders. Because the truth is already in you. Always has been. But knowing something and being aware of it, those are two different things. The world has worked hard to keep you asleep, to keep you small, distracted, afraid, to make you chase goals that have nothing to do with your soul's purpose. Because when you remember who you really are, the illusion begins to crack. That's why this knowledge is dangerous to the system. Because once you start to remember, the cage doesn't work anymore. You begin to question, not just authority or media, but yourself, your identity, your story, your patterns. You begin to see how deeply you've been conditioned. And that's the first step to waking up. You were told that time is a straight line. Past, present, future, birth, life, death. But Thoth said otherwise. He said time is a spiral, a repeating pattern of rise and fall, remembering and forgetting. When you see the world through that lens, everything shifts. History becomes less about dates, more about rhythms. Nothing is random. Everything follows a pattern, including you. Have you ever felt like you've been here before? Like certain people or places are strangely familiar? Like dreams hold clues you can't explain? That's not just imagination. That's memory. Soul memory. Time loops. And within each loop is a chance to grow, to evolve, to carry more awareness than before. This cycle is one of those chances. And right now, you're in it. But the world you live in doesn't want you to know this. It wants you to feel like time is chasing you, that you're running out of it, that if you don't accomplish enough, look young enough, own enough, you're failing. It traps you in clocks, calendars, deadlines, and distractions. It makes you fear age, fear stillness, fear slowing down. But the truth is, stillness is how you remember. Silence is how you hear. Thoth didn't fear time. He moved outside of it. He said the soul isn't bound by hours or years. It exists across all dimensions, in all moments. When your consciousness expands, you can access those moments. That's why the tablets feel timeless. Because they are. They weren't written for one generation. They were written from outside time, for any mind ready to wake up in any era. Including this one. Including you. The spiral explains why you felt ancient. Why you've always sensed something deeper. It explains why you've had chances to wake up before and missed them. But this moment isn't one of those misses. You're still here, still reading, still listening. That means something. This isn't entertainment. This is activation. And once you see the loop, you can step out of it. That's the shift. That's when time stops controlling you and starts teaching you. Not punishing, not limiting, guiding. It's a gate, and it opens only for those willing to slow down, look within, and ask the one question that changes everything. What am I here to remember this time? You were never just a body. Not just flesh, bone, blood. That's the illusion. That's what the system told you. That your worth was in your looks, your job, your performance. That death was the end. But Thoth said something different. He said the body is just a tool, a vehicle, a suit your consciousness wears to experience this level of reality. Who you really are is energy, vibration, a pattern so complex, so ancient, it echoes across time and space. And like all energy, you cannot be destroyed. You only transform. You've existed before. You will exist again. Not as a fantasy, but as a fact of your being. Think about how easily you were trained to forget that. From a young age, you were praised for obeying, not for wondering. You were rewarded for fitting in, not for exploring. The world didn't honor your light, it trained you to dim it. But Thoth's teachings were never about fitting in. They were about frequency. He taught that everything is vibration. that your thoughts are energy, that your emotions shape your reality. And if that's true, then you are not powerless. You're a creator, a transmitter, a magnet. Your energy is constantly shaping the world around you. That's why fear is pushed so hard. It weakens your field, makes your mind easy to control. But joy, peace, love, those aren't soft. They're revolutionary. They break the system. Thoth knew this. He left the tools, not rules, not religion. Tools, breath, thought, sound, intention. All of them shift your frequency. All of them can rewire your life. But you have to use them with awareness. You have to remember what's been buried. Because once you do, the world starts to change. Not because it's different, but because you are. You begin to move differently, speak differently, live differently. Not from fear, but from knowing, from remembering. This was never about worship, never about dogma. It was always about awakening. You're not here to follow. You're here to remember. And you're not late. You're right on time. You don't need anyone's permission to exist. You're not here by accident. You weren't born to shrink, to float through life quietly, or to wait for someone to approve of who you are. You're not meant to drift above the world pretending you're too spiritual to be human. That's not what being spiritual is. Being spiritual means being fully alive, grounded in your body, present in your choices, real in your emotions. It means bringing your spirit all the way into this world, into your daily life, your conversations, your work, your relationships. You're here to live your truth, not just dream about it. You might have been told that being spiritual means leaving the physical behind. But Thoth, the ancient teacher, said something very different. He said, "You are here to embody spirit, not escape it." That means your soul didn't come here to run away from life. It came here to live through you. Not just in meditations or dreams, but in how you treat people, how you speak, how you carry yourself. Spirituality isn't just light and stillness. It's action. It's choosing to be awake in a world that often wants you asleep. The moment you stop thinking of yourself as limited, something begins to change. There's a shift. You start feeling something deeper, a sense of awareness behind your eyes, a quiet strength under all the noise. A reminder that you've always been more than they told you. And that feeling? That's you. The real you. The part of you that existed before the fear, before the rules, before the world tried to box you in. The body is sacred, yes, but it's not the source of your power. It's the antenna. You are the signal, the energy moving through it. You are consciousness choosing to have a human experience. You didn't come here to suffer or to forget who you are. You came to remember, even in the noise, even in the heaviness, that you are limitless. Ever wonder why your thoughts get louder at night? When everything else quiets down, your inner world becomes easier to hear. The spirals, the worries, the secret dreams you've hidden away, they rise. But they're not rising to hurt you. They're showing up to teach you. Because thoughts aren't just mental chatter. They're energy. Every thought carries a vibration. Every emotion gives it power. Your thoughts are blueprints. And the universe? It doesn't ignore them. It listens. Not with ears, but with resonance. The universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are, to your frequency. So, if you say you want freedom, but carry the energy of fear, guess what shows up? More fear. Not because you're cursed or punished, but because the universe reflects what you put out. It mirrors your dominant energy, not your intentions. This isn't wishful thinking or spiritual poetry. It's mechanics. Reality is mental. It operates like a mirror, not a machine. You may have heard the words, as within, so without. But have you truly lived them? Most people don't. And it's not their fault. We've been trained since childhood to believe the opposite, that thoughts are private, that imagination is childish, that only hard work gets results. So people chase goals, hustle nonstop, burn out, and wonder why nothing changes. Meanwhile, the system that benefits from our confusion stays strong. Because once you forget the power of your mind, you start reacting instead of creating. You wait for life to happen to you instead of through you. Thoth warned us, the untrained mind is easy to control. If you don't direct your thoughts, someone else will. Your fears, your conditioning, your environment, all of it will shape your reality for you. Manifestation isn't about dreaming and hoping. It's about clarity and alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are in sync, reality responds quickly. You've seen it before. A time when everything felt off and everything went wrong. Or when you felt clear, energized, confident, and suddenly everything started flowing. That wasn't random. That was you, creating with your energy. Most of us do it unconsciously. But once you wake up, you get to do it with purpose. This doesn't mean your life becomes perfect. It means it becomes real, responsive. You stop outsourcing your power to governments, bosses, systems, or social media. You stop waiting for someone else to fix your life. You become the initiator, not out of ego, but from alignment. Real creation isn't control, it's coherence. And coherence starts with knowing what you really think and feel. Thoth didn't teach these principles to make you rich or popular. He taught them so you could remember your power and reclaim your sovereignty. So you could stop patching the symptoms and start healing the source. Once you understand that thought is the first cause, the root of all things, you stop wasting energy on the surface. You go within. You build the inner world that becomes the outer one. You've been told your senses define reality. That if you can't touch it or measure it, it isn't real. But deep down, you know that's not true. You felt things that can't be explained. Intuition, dreams that spoke to your soul, and knowing beyond logic. That's not fantasy, that's your spirit. That's memory. Because part of you still remembers the deeper truth. This world isn't the only one. Thoth taught that the soul is multidimensional. It can move through different states of being like water changes from liquid to vapor. The body isn't a trap, it's a vehicle. It's tuned to experience this level of reality, but it can also help you go beyond it. He spoke of the halls of Amenti not as myths, but as real states of higher consciousness. You don't walk into them with your feet. You access them with your energy, through vibration and intention. It's like tuning a radio. All the stations are there, but you can only hear the one you're aligned with. Your soul knows how to tune in. You've just forgotten which dial to turn. The ancients didn't meditate just to feel calm. They were traveling, unlocking awareness, entering other realms. Science is only now starting to catch up, talking about time bending, consciousness affecting matter, and quantum fields. Thoth didn't describe gods the way religions do. He spoke of intelligences, ancient consciousnesses, all connected in one great field. You felt it before. That sense of something bigger guiding you. Not outside you, but higher within you. That source. All the spiritual tools we've inherited, chanting, sound healing, sacred symbols, they're not decoration. They're technology. Vibrational tools that help tune your body and mind. Just like your phone picks up invisible signals, your body does too. And when you focus your attention with purpose, you don't learn new things. You remember who you already are. This is why life today is so noisy, so rushed, so full of distractions? Because silence is dangerous to the system. In silence, you hear the truth. And the truth is, the veil between this world and the higher ones is thin. You don't need to die to reach higher planes. You just need to align with them. Thoth that when your soul's vibration matches those realms, the gates open. Not through effort, through resonance. That's why some sounds move you to tears. Why some symbols feel like they've always belonged to you. Why sacred places feel familiar. You've been there. You're not learning how to ascend, you're remembering how to return. You're not becoming spiritual. You already are. You're just removing the layers of noise, doubt, and distraction. This isn't a new age trend. It's ancient. It's yours. And it's coming back because you're ready to hear it. You've been told you're separate. A single mind in a world full of strangers. But that's the greatest illusion of all. The truth is, you've never been alone. Not from each other. Not from nature. Not even from the stars. Thoth declared the law of one, that all consciousness is part of the same living field. One presence, many faces. And when you live from that truth, everything shifts. You stop seeing people as enemies or rivals. You stop reacting in fear. You begin to see yourself in everyone and everything. This doesn't make you passive. It doesn't mean ignoring the world's problems. It means facing them with wisdom. Because even darkness has its role. Even pain has a purpose. Every mistake, every challenge, every shadow has brought you closer to the light. When you know you are one with all life, you stop blaming. You stop waiting. You start living with purpose, with power. You don't need permission. You don't need to be saved. You just need to remember. Because you've always been the source. You've always been the key. And now you're waking up to the truth that was never lost, only hidden. There comes a moment when you stop needing approval from the outside world. You stop chasing likes, applause, or validation. Instead, you begin to honor something far more powerful, your own inner voice, your unique energy. Not because it makes you better than anyone else, but because it's yours. Authentic, unfiltered, real. And when you live from that place, something magical happens. You give others permission to do the same. That's how change really begins. Not by force, not by argument, but by frequency, by example. The wisdom that Thoth shared wasn't meant for the ego. It wasn't for the part of you trying to win or compete. He was speaking directly to the soul, the part of you that's ancient, wise, and eternal. The part that has lived many lives in many forms. The part that doesn't see enemies, only evolution. Doesn't see strangers, only reflections. He was speaking to the truth beneath all the roles you play. When you connect with that truth, fear starts to fall away. You stop seeing life as something that's happening to you. Instead, you start to feel it moving through you, with you, for you. You realize you're not some outsider in the universe. You are the universe, waking up to itself through your experience. That's the shift. It's not a belief. It's a remembering, a returning, a quiet awakening to something you've always known. You don't need to go looking for unity. It's already here. It's always been here. Buried under noise, distractions, and fear. You don't have to chase it. You just need to uncover it. And that uncovering begins now. Not tomorrow. Not when you're more spiritual or have more time. It begins the moment you choose to listen to the whisper inside you that says, there's more. Think about it. Why wasn't this kind of wisdom ever taught in school? Why weren't the emerald tablets in your textbooks? Why has so much of this knowledge been labeled as myth or superstition? Because if you really knew how powerful you are, the world as it is would start to fall apart. Not in chaos, but in awakening. In people waking up to their own power, their own truth, their own connection to something greater. They didn't just hide this truth. They buried it, covered it in confusion, wrapped it in stories to make you think it was fiction, turned sacred symbols into logos, turned ancient wisdom into fairy tales. But here you are, still hearing the call, still feeling the pull, still finding pieces of the puzzle that were meant for you all along. And make no mistake, this isn't a conspiracy theory. It's just a pattern, one that has repeated through time. Every civilization that tried to keep real spiritual knowledge alive was attacked, their temples destroyed, their language erased, their wisdom watered down. The same thing over and over again. Erase the past, control the present, rewrite the sacred. But that control only works if you forget who you are. And now you're remembering. The emerald tablets weren't written for kings. They weren't meant to sit in a museum or gather dust in some secret vault. They were left for the ones who would feel the call, the ones who would notice the cracks in the world around them and start to question everything. Not to worship the past, but to live the truth in the present. You're not broken. You're not lost. You're encoded. There is something inside you that's always known this world wasn't the full story. That whisper in your heart, that ache in your chest, that feeling that there's something more that's not your imagination. That's the signal. That's the memory waking up. Thoth didn't promise salvation. He didn't ask for followers. He didn't build temples for people to bow before him. He left behind keys, tools, teachings, because he knew a time would come when the world would need to remember again, when the noise would get so loud that silence itself would become sacred. That time is now. You don't need to believe everything right away. This isn't about blind faith. It's about resonance. It's about how the truth feels in your body, in your breath, in your bones. When you hear something real, you feel it. Not because it's loud, but because it's alive. Because it speaks to something deeper than logic. This journey isn't about following a guru. It's about looking in the mirror and finally seeing the one who's been waiting all along, you. Not the version of you that's busy, tired, and distracted. The real one. The one who knows. The one who remembers. The one who's been watching quietly as the world changed around you, waiting for the moment to rise. And when you begin to live from that place, something in you shifts. The old masks start to fall away. The fear of being judged, of being different, of standing out, it all begins to fade. Because the truth starts to matter more than fitting in. Freedom starts to matter more than approval. And you begin to feel alive in a way that no screen, no scroll, no story can give you. The world wants you distracted, because distracted people don't question. They don't awaken. They consume. They follow. They repeat. But you're not here to repeat. You're here to remember, to wake up, to relax, to bring something ancient into a modern world that has forgotten how to feel. This is not the easy path, but it is the real one. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about choosing, moment by moment, to return to who you truly are. Not the version that was shaped by fear, but the version that was born from truth. And here's the most powerful part. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to preach or shout or argue. Just live it. Walk it. Be it. Your presence will speak louder than words ever could. The way you carry yourself, the peace in your eyes, the clarity in your choices, that's the message. That's the signal that wakes others up. You're not here to escape the world. You're here to transform it, not by running away, but by showing up fully, fully awake, fully alive, fully you. Every time you choose truth over comfort, presence over distraction, alignment over approval, you break the spell. You shake the program. You start to shift the field. And no, there's no savior coming. That's not something to fear. It's something to celebrate. Because it means the power was always yours. You were never waiting for someone else. You were waiting for yourself. For the moment you would stop asking for permission and start remembering what you already are. Conscious, sovereign, awake. That moment doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes quietly, in the space between your thoughts, in the breath you forgot to notice, in the stillness where something ancient begins to stir. That's where truth lives. That's where remembrance begins. Thoth's words are still alive, not because they're old, but because they are timeless. Eternal. Truth doesn't fade. It waits. And every so often, it finds someone willing to live it. Not just repeat it, not just admire it, but actually embody it. You've been told that awakening is only for saints, mystics, or monks. But that's a lie. Awakening begins exactly where you are. Not later, not when your life is perfect. Right now, with your breath, with your intention, with the choice to stop living from fear and start living from truth. And yes, at first, it may feel lonely. Most people will scroll past this. They'll ignore it, dismiss it, laugh at it. Not because they're stupid, but because they're not ready. Awakening doesn't happen on command. It happens when the soul is ready. And if you've made it this far, you are. That's not a compliment. That's a calling. Because once you know, you can't unknow. Once you see the illusion, you can't pretend it's real anymore. And from this moment on, every choice becomes sacred. Every moment becomes part of the remembering. The emerald tablets weren't meant to impress you. They were meant to activate you. And now they have. So what happens next is up to you. You can go back to the noise, or you can keep walking, keep questioning, keep remembering. Because the deeper you go, the more is revealed. The teachings will always meet you at the level you're willing to reach. This is not the end. It's the beginning of the path you were always meant to walk. The one that leads not away from life, but into it. With eyes open, with heart awake, with your soul finally, fully home.